All right, let's jump right in. Have you ever had that feeling? You know the one, that super specific frustration where you've spent years studying English. I mean, you've memorized the vocabulary, you've slogged through the grammar books, you've done everything you were told to do, but then, when it's actually time to speak, it just falls apart, right? It's like there's this huge gap between the English that's in your head and the English that actually comes out of your mouth. Well, today, we're going to dive deep into that feeling. We're going to uncover something pretty surprising about what's really holding you back. And here's a little hint. It has almost nothing to do with your vocabulary, and it's definitely not about learning another complicated grammar rule. No, it's all about these hidden patterns running deep inside your own brain.
I mean, does that sound familiar? I'm willing to bet it does. Look, you can probably read an article online just fine. You can write an email for work, no problem. You see the words on the page, and you get it. But the second a native speaker starts talking to you at their normal speed, or you get put on the spot in a meeting, poof, it's like a fog just rolls into your brain. A wall just shoots up, and all that knowledge you have, it suddenly feels a million miles away. This is like the classic experience for so many learners. Sometimes they're called false beginners, and it is such a frustrating place to be stuck. But I really need you to hear this. You are absolutely 100% not alone in feeling this way.
And that's the big mystery, isn't it? It feels totally illogical. Like, if you know the words and you know the rules, why can't you just use them? Why does it feel like the conversation is always moving just a little too fast, always one step ahead of you? And why do you catch yourself translating everything in your head, trying to find that perfect word, only to realize the moment to speak has just vanished? Well, that is the puzzle we are going to solve today. Because figuring out the real reason you're stuck, that is the absolute first step to breaking through that wall once and for all.
So that brings us to our first big idea here, the fluency trap. And I call it a trap for a reason, because that's exactly what it feels like. It's this frustrating loop where you can get stuck for months, maybe even years, just spinning your wheels. You try the same things over and over. You blame all the wrong things for not making progress, and you start to think that real, effortless fluency is just something you're never going to get.
And when we're stuck in that trap, what's our go-to explanation? It's always the same, right? I just need more vocabulary. Or my grammar just isn't good enough. We think the solution has to be something from a textbook. So what do? We buy another app. We download a new set of flashcards. We tell ourselves, okay, if I can just cram more stuff into my brain, more phrasal verbs, more idioms, then one day it'll all just click. We're totally convinced the problem is just a lack of information.
But here's the big shift, the big what if. What if the problem has nothing to do with a lack of knowledge? Seriously, what if you already know enough vocabulary, enough grammar, to be way more fluent than you are right now? What if the real barrier isn't something out there you need to learn, but something inside? That's the core idea we're digging into today. The path to fluency isn't about studying harder. It's about learning how to work smarter by rewiring the way your brain is currently wired for English.
Okay, that brings us to our next section, your brain's hidden patterns. This is where we stop looking at the symptoms, the hesitation, the frustration, all that anxiety, and we start looking at the real diagnosis. We're about to uncover two really powerful hidden programs that are running in the background of your mind, actively sabotaging your fluency without you even knowing it. So let me just say this as plainly as I can. The biggest thing holding you back from speaking English fluently right now, it probably has nothing to do with the English you haven't learned yet.
It's not about missing information. No, it's something much, much deeper. It's your brain's programming. I'm talking about the basic operating system your mind is running on. And the best way to think about it is like this. There are two major issues. One is a hardware problem, and the other is a software problem. And both of them are getting in your way.
All right, so let's start with the hardware problem. We can call it the native language filter. And it's actually pretty simple when you think about it. From the second you were born, your brain has been doing one thing, getting really, really good at your mother tongue. It's spent your whole life being trained and optimized to hear and make the specific sounds and rhythms of that one language. By the time you're an adult, those connections in your brain are like super highways. They're strong, they're fast, and they're the default for everything. And that powerful system, it acts like a filter, trying to make every new language sound just like the one it already knows.
Okay, let's really unpack this with a great analogy. Just imagine your brain is a computer hard drive. Since day one, that hard drive has been formatted for one specific operating system, your native language. Let's say it's formatted for Japanese or Spanish or Arabic. For that one system, it is a masterpiece. It's fast, efficient, everything just works perfectly.
But now, here's the problem. You're trying to install and run brand new software, English, on that old hard drive. And what happens when you do that? Well, the software gets buggy. It lags, it crashes, it gives you error messages. Your brain hears a sound like the th and think, and if that sound doesn't exist in your native language, your brain literally doesn't have a folder for it. So what does it do? It shoves it into the closest folder it does have, maybe a T sound or an S sound. The unique music and rhythm of English gets totally flattened out to match the rhythm of your mother tongue. You see, you're not just learning new sounds, you're fighting against decades of programming.
This is why you can't just learn the right pronunciation from a book. You can't just install a few new files and hope it works. To get English to run smoothly, you have to create a brand new partition. You have to format a new hard drive in your brain, built from the ground up just for English. It's a physical process of retraining your ears and your mouth.
So, okay, that's the hardware problem. Now let's talk about the software problem, which is just as big a deal. And as the quote says, the biggest obstacle is ourselves. We get in our own way. We are, without a doubt, our own worst enemies here. And these are like the viruses and bugs running on our mental software. You know what I'm talking about. First, there's the obsession with being perfect. The need to build the absolute perfect, grammatically flawless sentence in your head before you even dare to speak. Then there's the crippling fear of making a mistake, a fear so strong that a lot of the time we just decide to say nothing at all. And of course, there's that little critical voice inside our heads, the one that's always whispering things like, you sound awful, or your accent is so bad, or nobody's going to understand you. All of this stuff, it's powered by anxiety and a lack of belief in ourselves. These are not grammar problems, people. They are confidence problems. So when you add it all up, you've got a hardware problem and a software problem. It becomes super clear, right? The solution is not in another grammar book. It's just not. To solve this, we need a totally different game plan. Which brings us to the good part, the solutions. And we start with section 3, shift your mindset. Look, before we can even talk about new habits, we have to fix our internal environment first. We've got to upgrade our mental software. We need to go from fear and self-criticism to curiosity and growth. This is the foundation. If you don't do this part, nothing else will stick. And this right here really lays out the two different voices that can live inside our heads. Over on the left, you've got the fixed mindset. That's the one that believes our skills are just, well, fixed. It's the voice that says, I'm just bad at English. But now look at the right side. That's the growth mindset. It doesn't deny reality, it just reframes it. A lot of the time, it just adds one powerful little word. I'm not good at English yet. It takes the thought like, I hate making mistakes, and transforms it into, mistakes are just proof that I'm actually trying. It's a huge shift from beating yourself up to giving yourself credit. It even takes that thought, I'll never sound like a native, and turns it into something empowering. My accent is a part of who I am.
So let's just be really clear on what a growth mindset is. It's the fundamental belief that your abilities aren't carved in stone. It's knowing that your skill in a language has nothing to do with some natural talent you were born with or without. Instead, it's a direct result of your dedication, your effort, and, this is key, using the right strategies. It's believing that every single challenge, every mistake, every awkward conversation isn't some final judgment on you. It's just an opportunity to get better.
So how do we actually do this? It's all about making small, conscious choices. First, start reframing your challenges. That grammar point that's driving you crazy? It's not a wall, it's just an interesting puzzle to figure out. Second, you have to actively change how you think about mistakes. When you mess up a word, don't just get frustrated. Get curious. Think, okay, why did I say that? What can I learn here? Third, praise yourself for the effort, not just the final result. So instead of being down on yourself for not being fluent yet, celebrate the fact that you put in 20 minutes of practice today. And finally, and this one is so important, practice self-compassion. Seriously, if your friend was learning something new and made a mistake, you wouldn't call them an idiot. You'd encourage them. You have to start giving yourself that same kindness. So once you start working on that internal mindset, the next step is to install some new software, so to speak. And we do that by building small, practical, consistent habits. This is how we actually format that new English hard drive and start to silence that inner critic. This is where we go from thinking to doing. Now, the real secret to making progress that actually lasts isn't about intensity. It's all about consistency. Seriously, studying for 5 hours on a Sunday and then doing absolutely nothing for 2 weeks is way less effective than doing just 20 minutes of focused practice every single day. The goal here is to make English a normal, easy, low-stress part of your daily life. It shouldn't be some huge, scary thing you have to psych yourself up for.
And this whole process can be super manageable. We're not talking about adding hours of homework to your already busy day. Just look at this routine: 2 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes on your commute or while you make breakfast, 5 minutes before bed. This is all about taking those little pockets of dead time that you already have in your schedule and turning them into real opportunities to improve.
Okay, let's zoom in on that first habit, morning affirmations. Now, I get it. I know what some of you are probably thinking. It sounds a little, a little cheesy, maybe a bit woo-woo, but I promise you, the psychology behind this is rock solid, and is specifically designed to fight those mental blocks we talked about earlier. Here's why this tiny 2-minute habit packs such a punch. First, it builds what's called self-efficacy, which is really just your genuine belief that you're capable of succeeding. By starting your day by stating that you can do this, you are literally rewriting the script of your inner critic. Second, it primes your brain. It gets it into English mode right from the start of the day. It also reinforces a positive attitude, so you start to associate English with confidence, not anxiety. And maybe most practically, it's fantastic low-stress pronunciation practice. You're just talking to yourself. There is zero pressure. No one's there to judge you. Just look at this example. It's simple, it's positive, and notice the tense, I am becoming. This is brilliant because it accepts that fluency is a process, not something that happens overnight. There's a great story about a woman from Brazil named Maria. She was terrified to speak in work meetings because she was so self-conscious about her accent. So she started this daily habit. Every morning, she'd look in the mirror and say, I speak English clearly and confidently. And yeah, at first it felt a little silly, but after a few months, she noticed a huge change. Sure, her pronunciation got better from the practice, but the real change was that she just became more willing to try. She wasn't afraid to speak up anymore. She broke that cycle of fear just by changing the first thing she told herself every single morning.
Okay, habit number 2. Think about your commute, or when you're walking the dog, or doing the dishes. All that is valuable time that usually just goes down the drain. By popping in some earbuds and listening to an English podcast, you're giving your brain what we call effortless exposure. You're just absorbing the natural sounds, the rhythm, and the music of the language without all the pressure of sitting down to study.
But we can take this listening and make it way more powerful with a technique called shadowing. And for a lot of people, this is an absolute game changer. This isn't just passive listening, it's active imitation. So as you're listening, you actually repeat what the person is saying, maybe just a split second behind them. And you're not just copying the words. You're trying to match their pronunciation, their intonation, the melody of their voice. This is how you start to build that new English hard drive. You are physically training your mouth and your ears to work in a completely new way.
So, what's the best way to do this? First, and this is the most important rule, pick something you actually enjoy and can pretty much understand. If it's too hard or it's boring, you're just going to stop. Second, you have to let go of the idea that you need to understand every single word. That's not the point. The main goal is just to get the sounds of the language into your head. Third, use that rewind button. Replay one sentence 5 times if you have to. Shadow it until it starts to feel a little more natural. And finally, set a tiny, achievable goal for yourself. Your only job is to notice and write down one new word or phrase each day. That's it. Just one.
And why is that one word a day rule so powerful? Well, let me tell you about a guy named Ahmed from Egypt. He started listening to a short tech podcast on his commute, and his only rule was to write down one new word he heard every day in a little notebook. After about 6 months of doing this, he figured he had added around 200 new, useful words to his vocabulary. And these were words he actually remembered because he learned them in context. That is the amazing power of a tiny habit repeated consistently over time.
Okay, so we've figured out the real problem. It's not about how smart you are, it's about your brain's default settings and your own mental blocks. And we've walked through the solution. A 1-2 punch of shifting your mindset first and then building small daily habits. So let's wrap this all up and talk about what you can do next. If there's only one thing you remember from all of this, please let it be this. The answer is not to just try harder doing the same things that aren't working. It's not about banging your head against a wall of grammar exercises. It's about understanding what's really going on under the surface and then choosing smarter, kinder, more effective strategies to move forward. It's about you becoming the coach of your own learning journey.
And that leads us to the final and most important question. This isn't about some huge plan you're going to start next year or even next week. This is about right now, today. What is one tiny, manageable, non-scary thing you could do to start this process? Could you go find a podcast to listen to tomorrow? Could you write one affirmation on a Post-it note and stick it on your mirror? Could you just replay one sentence from this and try shadowing it? The journey to fluency is not one giant leap. It's just 1,000 tiny steps. So, what's your first step going to be?